PUV Modernization Program, BBM Binatikos sa concert, at Lotto Iniimbestigahan. Kumusta for me? This is for Joseph and welcome to News I Deem Worthy Recap Weekly Edition number 35. We have tons to cover since last week, so skip the tangents provided if it piques your interest. Get magkatana for the blazing selective summation. Here are some page news commentary for your convenience. BBM Binatikos sa concert. Umani ng batikos ang first family nang makita ng mga netizens nang i-post ni First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos ang kanilang spur-of-the-moment photograph nang dumulo si President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at ilang family members sa isang concert ng Coldplay, a British rock band known for their hits such as Viva La Vida, Yellow, and The Scientists sa The Philippine Arena sa Bulacan. Ay sa PSG Major General na nag-authorize na paggamit ng presidential chopper, masyadong risky ang napaka-crowded with an quote unprecedented influx of 40,000 individuals eagerly attending the concert, unquote, which poses great security threats sa safety ng president. And I must agree with them. I mean, he is of course the highest, or at least the highest elected official of the land. And I must agree with them, but it does leave a bad taste in my mouth and to many that he even wanted to attend that concert, not considering political backlash, showing his immutable confidence and ever more popularity amid crisis after crisis in the country, not to mention the squabble between the House of Representatives and the Senate, and her Vice President and House Speaker, and his sister, which is also a senator, and his, again, House Speaker of a cousin. Kumpiyansang-kumpiyansa siyang kahit na ang prospect o imahe na gumastos siya ng potentially millions per trip of taxpayers' money ay hindi siya natitingnan. Nag-post pa nga. Katulad ng sinabi ni Sara Duterte last year about her trekking from Davao to Manila back and forth. I don't know why, if that's even true, but she posted it, I think. PUV Modernization Program Consolidation Extended. Bumigay na si President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. sa rekomendasyon ng LTFRB patungkol sa pagpapalawig ng consolidation deadline ng mga unconsolidated hari ng kalsada na dapat ay mawawala na sa parating na Pebrero. Ang bagong deadline ay ang huling araw ng Abril 2024. Sinasabi nilang hindi na muli magre-rekomenda ang LTFRB sa presidente ng pag-postpone ng deadline after April 30, 2024. So, that's an ironclad and they will stay their ground no matter how much you try to shake it. Because, to be honest, I really thought they wouldn't budge anymore considering ilang beses na pinatatag ng Pangulo or parang nireinforce niya yung belief niya, yung stance niya at yung resolve niya sa January 30, 2023. Or actually, noong una pa lang, June 30, 2023, sinabi niya hindi na sila mag-budge. Yung deadline ng June 30, 2023. Tapos, sumunod naman ng December 31, 2023 deadline at si January 31, 2023 deadline. I mean, although I might be worried na it would look like Marcos Jr. is a weak leader along with Duterte for postponing the modernization program, quite possibly indefinitely, considering it's an unpopular or at least badly put together. I guess that's what you would call the modernization program is, because they're still forcing the Chuper to consolidate. I guess a dub's a dub, right? I mean, ikawalong postponement ng araw ito, sabi ng LTFRB. So, why not go for 10? Or, kick the can down the road after turning BBM, because that means hindi niya na kailangan pa na i-deal yung political backlash with that. And still have his enormous popularity rating skyrocketing, just like what he did with the Coldplay concert. Hindi niya na kailangan pang mag-appease sa mga tao because, he's already that popular just because of his father and some network that I will get into. Hinarang ng PNP ang mga nagpoprotestang tsuper ng grupong Piston at Manibela laban sa PUV Modernization Program ng LTFRB DOTR sa Welcome Rotonda na nag-aamba at most likely will result in their loss of livelihood for their whole life. Nagsimula ang kilos protesta caravan ng mga tsuper sa UP Diliman Campus papuntang Welcome Rotonda, diretso hanggang Mendiola. Sinasabing ang dahilan ng barikada ng mga pulis ay ang kawalan ng permit upang magprotesta. Now, aside from the fact na kailangan mo pa ng permit para magprotesta, I mean, that doesn't really serve the whole purpose because freedom of assembly or whatever and some kind of principle in their striking or as we see now, protesting. The goal of a protest or a strike is to first cause inconvenience, the very least cause commotion. It poses serious questions with the integrity of our supposedly free country. Talagang mahihinuha mo yung sinasabi ng iilan na class traitors ang pulisya dahil sa kanilang pagpoprotekta sa mga bourgeoisie class or bourgeois class, paminsan-minsan pa'y gagamit ng dahas laban sa kanilang kapwa manggagawa, aka a class traitor, just because that's what they're paid to do. Nililinaw rin ni LTFRB Chairperson Teofil Guadis na hindi pa required ang pagpapa-phase out or pagpa-phase out at pagpapalit ng mga traditional jeepneys to a modern jeepney from China or even here in the Philippines with that 3 million to 1 million peso SRP. I don't know if there's an SRP for that, but anyway, ang focus talaga nila ngayon, or at least yun yung sinasabi nila, ay ang pagbubuo ng mga tsuper ng mga kooperatiba. Now, why? Well, you'll watch the NIDW recap episodes later on in the video. Ayon sa LTFRB, 76% na ng mga PUV ang consolidated sa buong bansa, ngunit mahigit 1,000 ruta ang mawawala sa lansangan sa buong bansa at 300 ruta naman sa Metro Manila, which is a lot. These are the previous NIDW recaps para sa mga nakaraang linggo. Do be mindful na ang ilang stats sa mga previous NIDW recaps ay hindi na ganoon ka-accurate, ngunit or at least dahil wala namang masyadong nilalabas na stats ang LTFRB. Also, if you want, just skip para sa China page with respect to one China policy or...
Ayon sa LTFRB, just before matapos ang office hours ay nakapag-consolidate na ang mga major routes sa NCR, samantalang ang mga rutang wala masyadong nakapag-consolidate ay pwede nang ipasalo sa mga major routes na nakapag-consolidate after the January 31, 2024 extension. Of course, may malaking chance na ang mga rutang iyon ay nabawasan na ng mga units na babiyahe dahil rito ay mas bibigat pa ang pressure sa mga rutang ito aside from the usual bigat ng kanilang ruta kung idadagdag pa ang mga quote-unquote minor routes. Ngunit dahil nga hindi pa nare-release ng LTFRB ang mga rutang with less than 60% consolidation rate dahil raw marami ang mga last minute na kapag-consolidate noong December 31, 2023, hindi mo na manghuhuli ang mga MMDA officers ng mga tsuper na hindi nakakapag-consolidate, or at least not really the listahan itself, pero you know, Jeffrey Epstein and stuff. Here is the full PUV modernization saga ng ating NIDW recap. Kung gusto nyo skip yung PUV modernization saga na paulit-ulit kong nilalagay sa mga NIDW recaps, well, you can skip the timestamp provided for the next news. Ayon sa Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board o LTFRB, sila ay magpapublish ng listahan ng mga ruta na may less than 60% consolidation rate ng mga number of authorized units o NAU, kung saan ang mga unconsolidated individual operators ay maaari pa makapag-operate at pumasada up until January 31, 2024 so long as they meet this 60% less or at least less than 60% consolidation rate sa kanilang mga ruta. Matatandaan nating nasa around 30% lang ang consolidation rate sa mga jeepneys at 44% naman sa mga UV Express units na bumabiyahe sa NCR o around total of 35% in totality ayon sa LTFRB NCR District Office. Which just goes to show you na napakaraming operators ang hindi pa nakakapag-consolidate, lalo na yung mga hindi pa nakakapalit ng kanilang mga engine para maging Euro 4 compliant. Matatandaan rin natin na naghain ng petisyon ng grupong Piston para iprotesta ang ipinopost ng LTFRB patungkol sa konsolidasyon ng mga units. Sinasabi nilang kapag sila ay sumali sa isang kooperatiba o korporasyon, mawawala na ang ownership ng kanilang mga unit, especially sa mga single operators among other concerns. Bagamat hindi pa naghahain ng Supreme Court of the Philippines ng TRO patungkol sa PUV Modernization Program, inuutusan na ng Korte Suprema ang DOTR at LTFRB upang mag-respond sa petisyon ng grupong Piston sa loob ng 10 araw, although that would be after January 1. So, I don't even know if that would make any difference, but so long as the January 31, 2024 deadline na sinasabi ng LTFRB patungkol sa less than 60% consolidation rate, well, they could in theory put the TRO back on the table. Nagprepare na rin ang mga LGU sa posibleng impending transport strike o transport crisis sa Pilipinas leading up to at after the December 31 deadline. This is becoming very bad para sa mga commuters, operators, drivers at sa gobyerno. These people are the bulk of the masses na naglagay sa inyong posisyon, lalo na yung mga nasa masa or yung mga populace of the working class, yung mga proletariats. Not to mention Pasko at bagong taon. Napakapangit na prospect or yung visuals, lalo na yung nangyayari ngayon, na yung mga isang tukang jeepney drivers at mga commuters magsa-struggle or at least mawalan ng kabuhayan at syempre less alternatives sa mga ruta at mga PUVs na pwedeng gamitin to and fro work to, you know, get some bread. It really is a situation that should be approached differently. Ang baba pa nga ng subsidiya na binibigay nila. I think it's around 210,000 to 280,000 para sa mga Class 1 vehicles to Class 3 vehicles. Ang daming kilos protesta ang nangyari sa Kalakhang, Maynila patungkol sa impending deadline ng DOTR LTFRB na patuloy pa rin nangyayari even up until now. Tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang mga kilos protesta laban sa impending PUV Modernization Program. Nag-file ng petisyon ng grupong Piston laban sa umaambang PUV Consolidation at Modernization sa Korte Suprema at ngayon naghahantay ng desisyon upang pigilan ang nasabing modernisasyon. Nag-file sila ng petisyon sa Korte Suprema upang maitanong kung legal nga ba ang mandatory consolidation para sa mga kooperatiba kapalit ng permit para sa unang araw ng Enero 2024. Nagkaroon ng transfer strike o tigil pasara noong December 14 at December 15, 2023 na pinamunuan ng Piston o pagkakaisa ng mga samahan ng tsuper at operator nationwide. Although, of course, umpisa sila nung 14 pa lamang at sinundan naman sila ngayon ng Manibela o Malaking Alyansa ng bus employees at laborers to to the 18th of December hanggang 29th of December patungkol sa konsolidasyon at pag-phase out ng mga traditional jeepneys na hindi pasok sa standard ng Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board o LTFRB na i-implementa sa ika-31 ng Disyembre 2023. Kumbaga, this is a last-ditch effort o Hail Mary kung saan gusto nila iparalisa yung transport system ng ating bansa, especially sa NCR, para malaman ng gobyerno o ng LTFRB DOTR na talagang hindi kakayanin ng Pilipinas and basically our metro system to handle such a consolidation or at least yung pag-phase out nga or pagtanggal ng prangkisa ng ating mga super operators. Since sabi ni President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na 70% ng mga operator ay nakapag-commit at nakapag-consolidate na under the new Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program o PUVMP. Ayon sa datos ng DOTR LTFRB, the statistic kung saan sinasabi 153,000 out of the 222,000 o 69 nice 0.8% have compiled or at least have complied with the PUVMP. Samantalang 1,739 na kooperatiba or bagong kooperatiba na ang nabuo kasunod ng mandatong ipinatong ng gobyerno. Ngunit maraming nagsasabi at least yung mga transport groups na hindi ito yung big picture or at least hindi ito yung full picture or at least kung saan tayo dapat nakafocus. Masyadong inflated yung mga numbers na ito. Sinasabing kasama raw sa statistic na ito yung 70% ang mga bus at minibuses pati na yung mga UV expresses. Now, minibuses I understand kasi they're practically para sa mga traditional jeepneys, pero ayon sa Rappler na kinuha ang datos sa piston, only 26% lang at 36% lang ng jeepneys at UV express units respectively ang nakapag-consolidate. Samantalang nationwide, 84,000 out of the 150,000 or around 56% or 57% lamang ang nakakonsolidate. 26% sa jeepneys at 36% sa mga UV expresses or at least sa Kalahang Maynila lamang ang nakapag-consolidate. Well, talagang makikita mo na mahirap or at least mahamper yung mga operators or at least yung mga jeepneys or at least yung public transportation system natin sa December 31 deadline. We don't even know if we should call these as public transportation as they are privately owned, although it's not like they could all strike. I mean, wala silang pera, they don't have the money to do it and they can't sustain them for very long. That's why paulit-ulit na lang or at least dalawa-dalawang araw, dalawa-tatlong araw lang yung PV strike. Although this would be the last ditch effort kung saan from December 18 to December 29 talagang complete stop na sila sa kanilang or at least yun yung gusto nilang mangyari. Gusto nilang complete stop on all their operators or at least all their jeepney operators. Sinasabi ko lang magiging transport crisis sa Pilipinas, which may very well be true, pero remember, ang commuting is not just the commuters but also the drivers, conductors, and operators as well. I mean, them taking the money na otherwise would be spent on goods in malls and luxury items will be better spent sa mga jeepney kung saan mas madaling mag-circulate yung pera, making it more viable to the economy rather than lining the pockets of the richest of the rich in the Philippines. Kumbaga, at least gamit natin yung pera na mapupunta dapat sa mga chuper. Well, sa chuper, gagamitin agad nila yung pera na yan because there will be no spare expenses sa kanila. Samantalang kung bibili tayo ng luxury goods sa malls or anything for that matter na, kumbaga sinisave lang nila yung pera nila in a vault somewhere para silang dragon na nag-hoard ng gold, well, hindi nila isi-spend yun and therefore hindi mas-circulate sa economy, which is what we want with the money kasi nga, that's how economies work in general. And if bigyan lang natin sila sa mga kumpanya tulad ng SM na hindi naman sa sinasabi kong bihira sila mag-develop but masyado silang corporatized at marami silang liquidity or financial holdings kung saan yung wealth nila naka-stock away lang, hindi nila ginagamit yun. Consolidation talaga yung fino-focus ng ating DOTR LTFRB. Umaangan ng mga transport groups sa planong pag-phase out ng mga hari ng kalsada, ang mga traditional jeepneys na hindi pasok sa standard ng LTFRB sa kontrobersyal na Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program, citing high cost of the newer models adding burden to the kahit isang tukang jeepney drivers. And they postponed it like 6 years now. So I don't think there are any more leeway to be given, pero it's still a governmental agency which means they can do whatever the fuck they want and will have no say with what goes in and out. Sinabing ang mga modern minibuses na nire-recommend as the alternatives made in China costs too much, around 3 million pesos each at the high end and 1.5 million pesos for the lowest end according to the LTFRB. Samantalang ang ating mga jeepney drivers ay hirap makabayad ng kanilang boundary kada araw. And although I am talking about the operators that will shoulder the cost, it will still be the drivers who will be taking the punch. Not to mention yung kakarampot na 210,000 to 280,000 na subsidiya ng gobyerno per operator or at least per unit na bibilhin ng operator or ng jeepney driver or whatever cooperative na nag-consolidate as a result of this modernization program. Isa yan sa mga concern, ang mga operator na nagme-may-ari at nagpaparenta ng kanilang traditional jeepneys para sa boundary ang maapektuhan ng malala ng naturang pag-phase out ng decrepit at bulok na PV jeeps. Pag-may-ari nila ang mga jeeps na suddenly ay magiging obsolete starting January 2024. Though, to be fair, dihira sa isang chuper na sila ang magme-may-ari ng kanilang minamanehong jeepney, which is in fact a crucial shame, pero it's more in the standpoint of gagamitin lang nila yung jeepney na yun and then they'll pay for the boundary and then do whatever they want. Hindi na nila kailangan isipin yung repair cost, maintenance cost at saka yung parking lot. So that was a plus for them. But still, hindi sila yung may hawak ng means of production nila, which in that case was the service na pinaprovide nila as the drivers sa mga ruta. I don't want to get too deep into the dialectical materialism, pero that's basically how it goes. I approve of the jeepney modernization program dahil sa mga pasaway na chuper, mga bulok na sasakyan na hindi lang hazard sa environment, kundi hazard rin sa aesthetic at safety ng mga mananakay at mga taong nasa kalsada, which is mostly mga chuper at mga pasahero nila because of the open unfiltered air emissions at yung pag-inhale ng emissions ng mga decrepit at bulok na jeepneys. I approve of the jeepney modernization program because of the implications at mga pinupush ng LTFRB tulad ng pagsiset up ng mga chuper ng kooperatiba or corporations or whatever na binubuo ng mga jeepney drivers, not just operators yung single link operations, upang hindi sila magkunahan at mag-compete sa mga mananakay na isa sa mga dahilan kung bakit sila nagbe-break ng mga pamantayan sa lansangan. It also standardizes their salaries and even employment benefits if they're lucky. Not to mention the dreaded boundary system sa single driver to operator model na nagpa-proliferate kung saan naiuwi na lamang ng ating mga mamang chupera ay kakarampot kapag tinanggal na yung cost ng crudo at boundary. Because even in the system of operator to jeepney driver relationship, sila pa rin magbabayad sa crudo na gagamitin nila. I don't want to antagonize the operator, the owning class, and the laborers, the drivers, kasi basically in the same vicinity, they're basically in the same class, just with different holdings. Sa kooperatiba, magkakaroon sila ng say sa mga desisyon ng consolidated cooperatives instead of individualized. Kasi kapag kooperatiba, nadedemocratize yung desisyon na ginagawa sa isang korporasyon o kooperatiba. Kung saan, ang mga magagawa ang may-ari ng makinarya ng kanilang pagkita at makademokrasya ang pagdesisyon nila sa kanilang trabaho. Anything related to their work, like participating in strikes, fares, benefits, at syempre collectivized and communalized yung responsibilities at duties ng mga jeepney drivers. Kaya I am definitely approving of the cooperative system na pinupush at yung consolidation na pinupush ng LTFRB. Kasi may consolidated fleet, mapupush yung mga drivers to, be more mindful of how they treat the lansangan kasi nga an accident or any misguided recklessness in their driving could result into the whole operation stopping or at least pausing for a minute. Ngunit of course, ang papasan ng cost na yan ay ang ating mga jeepney drivers pati na yung mga biyahero at parokyano ng one-in-a-kind transportation method na kailangan taasan ng boundary o lease sa mga ginagamit ng jeep. Pair that with high inflation, disproportionate fare hikes at presyo ng crudo, talagang ang bilyones na subsidiyang kakailanganin para mapalitan ang nawawalang capacity ng local transportation method ng ating mga syudad. Isa pa sa mga kritisismo ay ang soulless at bland design ng mga minibus na i-import pa galing China. Marami nagpupush na tulungan ng gobyerno ang mga lokal na industriyang aangkop sa lokal na demand ng mga modern jeepneys. At least yung aesthetics will be the same as the traditional jeepneys, just with a bit more twist. 30 to 60% I think of the fleet is already modernized and hindi naman kailangan yung may aircon and all that stuff. It is recommended pero hindi naman yun yung main focus ng modernization program, or at least yung nakaraang transport strike proved it to be negotiable. It's more on the makinarya at engine na ginagamit to be Euro 4 or Euro 5 compliant with regards to their engine. So at least yung aesthetics will be the same as traditional jeepneys kung ang gagawa is yung local na industriya at meron ng ganung locally made vehicles na pinoproduce but of course with limited capacity. But yes, I approve of union work as they give bargaining power to the working class when those that produce value in a company or any institution of money-making endeavor. Sure, it's disruptive, but that's what protests are supposed to do. Else, what does inconveniencing you does? And in this case, the bosses are the government who wants to implement sweeping changes that could potentially cripple their bottom line, the approval of the people, and crippling those relying on the income generated in this endeavor. It doesn't matter if I don't agree with what they want to accomplish. Union work is union work, and we cannot impede on that front. We have freedom of assembly. Albeit, I see their protesting as more of an overreaction kasi marami rin transport groups ang did not participate in this kind of disruptive transport strike kasi they're probably overreacting. But yeah, I do agree with some of their points. The officials from LTFRB and MMDA said the strikes did not make a difference or dent in the transportation capacity of the country. I think they said they have 680 reserved vehicles to deploy kapag nagkaroon ng triple transportation mobilization, pero they have only deployed like 10% of the total fleet. I mean, freaking scabbers. Anyway, by branding them as scabbers, we cultivate animosity inside the working driving class, which we do not want kasi kailangan natin sila bigyan ng breathing space as in dialectical materialism. We need to cultivate a class consciousness at hindi dapat natin pinag-aaway yung people with the same cause. Kasi kapag nagkaroon ng animosity between two sides of the same coin, the bourgeoisie or the owning class would be the only one benefiting sa squabble na ito. The scabbers scabbing isn't a huge statement with regards to the hold of the union, rather a statement on the lengths of our hardworking drivers will go to out of desperation just to break even and put food on the table. The broken system that perpetuates the misery and poverty. The reason why I even agreed to the proposal was because of their bargaining back then. I mean, it reduced the phased out vehicles from all traditional jeepneys to just those that are decrepit and literally have parts falling off the road. And that's the only goal, or at least, and that's the greatest overall win we could ever achieve, along with some minor improvements sa mga existing traditional jeepneys. Although I agree they should up the loan and grants/subsidies to be given to our DepEd. For this is the supposedly unintended result of boosting importation from modern jeepney manufacturing countries like China, of which the Philippines has little to none. Kaya I was pushing for the local government to have some protectionism of our local industries with regards to this kind of stuff. Kasi nga traditional and basically modern jeepneys are an essential part of the public sector and public utility vehicle in general and transportation also. Kailangan natin magkaroon ng backbone of local industry to supply and meet the demands of the market.
Here are some more page news for your convenience. Paolo Duterte nagreklamo sa budget. Idinaing ni former presidential son and Davao 1st District Representative Paolo Duterte ang pagbawas ng 2 billion peso budget ng kanyang distrito. Sinasabi niyang ang dahilan ng pag-cut ng House Committee on Appropriations, which also slashed the 650 million peso budget request or confidential request ng kanyang ate, Vice President and Department of Education Secretary Sara Duterte. Ayon sa kanya, bumaba ang budget ng kanyang distrito from 2 billion pesos to 500 million pesos dahil sa kanyang opposition to the People's Initiative route. The leadership of the House, the Remolduses of the representatives are pushing dahil hindi makalusot sa Senado. Of course, allegedly, since itinatanggi nila ito pero they're not investing it, kinda so and so. Dahil sa kanyang pag-angal sa nasabing budget cut, sinasabi ng committee panel chair na gusto lamang inilang i-adjust ang mga sumusobrang budget sa nararapat na propasyon ng masa upang maiwasan ang uneven growth. Naisiwala tuloy ang mahigit 51 billion peso budget or 51 billion peso na budget or cumulative ng kanyang distrito. 13 billion noong 2020, 25 billion pesos noong 2021 at 13 billion pesos again noong huling taon ng kanyang ama noong 2022 or at least yung presidential term ni former President Rodrigo Duterte, which is quite the timing considering habang kanyang kiniklaim na the bulk of those funds were used for infrastructure and overall welfare of the people, multiple landslides and flash floods rained on Davao forcing people to evacuate the Moncayo, Davao de Oro. Nag-declare ng state of calamity ang Davao Oriental dahil sa bugso ng walang tigil na ulan at paghaba kung saan mahigit 40,000 na pamilya ang naapektuhan ng pag-ulan. Granted, hindi siya ang representative sa nasabing distrito pero it still speaks to the fact na ang mga karatig lalawigan at distrito ay nagugutom sa funding ang ibang distrito sa paglobo at glutton ng budget ng kanyang distrito sa termino ng kanyang ama because it's his father give him more, and the fact that unilateral din ng Congress back then under Duterte, so that's pretty cool. Samantalang typically according to Representative Ko, I'm not really sure, a district depending on its size will receive 500 billion pesos to 4 billion pesos in funding. I mean, it's way out of proportion even on the 13 billion peso scale. And bakit kaya hindi siya nagsalita sa mahigit na 25 billion na budget or 22 billion budget cut sa panahon ng kanyang ama? Bakit ganoon na lang kalaki ang budget ng kanyang distrito noong siya'y maupo back in 2019, I think? Bakit niya ginagamit yung kanyang opposition to the suhol to the People's Initiative being brought up when it's clearly not the reason kung bakit siya tinanggalan ng 2 billion pesos. Of course, hijacking our cause for, no to people's initiative, or basically no to constitutional amendments, especially in economic provisions. Although I would like the political provisions to be amended, but it's only if I am the one under the helm. Newly created Congress TV on air. Inilunsad ng House of Representatives ang panibagong programang ipapalabas ang mga proceedings at gawain ng House of Representatives sa kanilang ina-unveil in cooperation with the PTV4 station na Congress TV. Okay, both houses of Congress, the House of Representatives and the Senate, have already been doing that. Even the Supreme Court, 2 of the 3 branches has already done this. They've been live streaming it all free of charge on, of course, YouTube. I guess it's now made more accessible considering the obscurity and the fact that only a few of our citizens actually know and would even dare to buy data or, pay for Wi-Fi to watch some boring ass House of Representative hearing on the, I don't freaking know, how much should authors be paid or something. I don't know, they don't do that. But, the data consumption, live streaming, watching could induce in the, of course, pockets of our Philippine or fellow Filipino people. Don't get me wrong, it's a good initiative, but this might be used to justify higher expenditures. Quiboloy Network ordered to cease and desist. Matapos ang suspension at pagpapatuloy mag-broadcast ng Suarezug Media Corporation, the mother corporation of SMNI, pinatawan ng cease and desist order ng National Telecommunications Commission o NTC ang Quiboloy-owned at broadcaster ng SMNI o Sunshine Media News International dahil sa kanilang di umano'y di pagsunod sa tentative suspension order noong nakaraang buwan sa ilang parte ng Western Visayas. Kasabay ito ng pagpapatawag sa dalawang host ng SMNI Notorious Red Taggers at DDS na sina Jeffrey Celis at Lorraine Badoy dahil sa ilang irregularidad at nasasabing violation patungkol sa advertisements at ang pagpapakalat di umano ng maling impormasyon patungkol sa mahigit kumulang 2 bilyong alleged travel expenses ng House Speaker at pinsa ng benefactor of campaigning boosting ng SMNI noong eleksyon na si President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. And of course, I don't know why I even put that all in, but basically I'm just talking about our Speaker of the House, Martin Romualdez, also later representative. So yeah. Kasabay rin ng patutsada ni SMNI host at former President Rodrigo Duterte laban sa Kamara patungkol sa pagtatanggal or pagpapatanggal ng 650 million pesos ng confidential fund sa kanyang anak at vice-presidente na si Sara Duterte. Senado hindi sang-ayon sa People's Initiative. Sa isang unanimous manifesto na inilabas ng Senado, mariin nilang kinondena ang nakakabahalang malisyosong People's Initiative na nakikita ang pagsulsol at paglilinlang sa bayan kung saan ginagamit ang ayuda o kakarampot ng financial aid around 100 pesos kapalit ng kanilang pirma, at least according to Adse Lagman of Albay MP Kabataan Party List Representative. Maalalang nag-file ng resolution si Senate President Mig Zubiri patungkol sa constitutional amendment after he met with BBM and House Speaker Romualdez on economic provisions ngunit nagbadya siyang mag-resign kung makalusot ang ilang political revisions sa Constitution, which is why Robin Padilla, the committee chair on the constitutional amendments, is not the one presiding over the Senate deliberation on constitutional amendment or constitutional assembly or whatever, but Sani Angara. Not because they don't believe in him, but because he has some political term limit thingamajig and even overhaul of the Senate, which I will be discussing soon, although I haven't had the chance to, make the video. Now, malamang iisipin nyo na, wow, napaka-principled naman ito Pero remember, napaka-devastating ng potential prospect ang kanilang pagpapost sa economic revisions, which would enable foreign companies to own more than the constitutional limit of 40% ng mga kumpanya na gumagamit ng ating natural resources tulad ng mga minahan, kuryente, tubig at telecom frequencies. Isipin nyo na lang ang Meralco, PLDT, Maynilad o Manila Waters ay maaaring mapasakamay ng mga banyaga tulad ng US o China, or at least corporations that only seek profit. That's why I wanted to have the government to just, nationalize it, because, public service isn't meant to be profiting off of. That's why if there's people asking you, hey, what are you doing? Why are you advocating for the nationalization of these crucial to the survivalship, or at least the two to three rungs of, and to have that in the hands of foreign profit-driven companies, or even just local-driven or local profit-driven companies? Well, I don't think it would be wise for us to chalk it off as something that should be done but wouldn't be done. That just because of the debt it incurs, somehow it is quite possibly indefinitely in the hands of the profit-driven corporations. Because public service shouldn't be profitable. It serves to be a public good. Albeit, yes, it is in fact quite distressful that, some of our agencies and some of our government or GOCCs or government-owned controlled companies is, in debt, like Meralco was, or whatever nationalized NGCP, like any of those utility companies, albeit they are in fact in debt. That doesn't mean that the value they provided indirectly contribute to the economy. That wouldn't be seen just if you are looking at the profits and the revenues and the expenditures and the debts that is piling on. Of course, you want it to be at the very least barely profiting, but it doesn't hurt to have a few debts. Now, you see the issue. By the way, look out to a video I will be releasing soon regarding this push. I mean, the SEO would be crazy. Stay tuned. Jackpot sa Lotto, Iniimbestigahan. Matapos ang ilang magkasunod-sunod na panalo ng Lotto ng ilang mananaya, nag-launch ng investigation ang Senado patungkol sa di umano'y dayaan sa pagbobola ng mga MAC. Iginigiit naman ng PCSO management na ang kanilang pagdagdag ng 500 million peso, which is quite sus, as they say. The fact that they added 500 million pesos to the minimum payout, well, it's kind of weird. Pero iginit naman ng PCSO management na ang kanilang pagdagdag ng 500 million pesos sa original 28 million peso price sa 649 Lotto na napanalunan ng isang loan buyer, by the way, ay isang promotional campaign lamang na nag-net sa PCSO ng 800 million pesos. Magkasunod na araw ang pagkapanalo ng mga loan bettors nitong linggo lamang na umabot sa cumulative 1.4 billion pesos in 2 days. I mean, they even bragged about it. Itinaas nila ng 500 billion pesos sa mga jackpot prizes sa pamamagitan ng programang Handog Pakabog na nagdadagdag sa minimum lottery prize or lottery jackpot ng 649, 655 at 658 ng 500 million pesos, samantalang itinaas naman ang minimum lottery prize jackpot ng 642 at 645 ng 100 million pesos. So yeah, they're paying out huge sums of money. Antipolo Catholic Cathedral, PH's first international shrine. Formal nang idineklarang International Shrine of Our Lady of Peace and Good Voyage ang Antipolo Cathedral na pinasanayahan ng Papal/Apostolic Nuncio Ambassador to the Philippines. Pinitisyon ng Catholic Bishop Conference of the Philippines o CBCP ang pagpapasinaya sa Antipolo Cathedral to be an international shrine noong July 2021 at inaprobahan noong Marso last year. Ang selebrasyon ay dinaluhan ng ilang opisyal ng gobyerno, First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos, PNP Chief Acorda at mahigit 80 obispo na ang simbahang katolika sa bansa. Ang Antipolo Cathedral and an International Shrine of Our Lady of Peace and Good Voyage ay isa sa iilang international shrine sa buong mundo. DepEd, admin task, inalis na. Ayon sa isang memorandum na nilagdaan ni VP Sara Duterte, tatagalin na ang dagdag na administrative jobs sa mga public school teachers upang ma-ensure na sila ay makakapag-focus at sa pagtuturo at hindi maabala o ma-overload sa mga dagdag na gawaing naipataw sa kanila or sa kanilang mga kamay. Magbabawasan na ang mga pasani ng ating mga guro sa kanilang doble-doble trabaho sa eskwela. Maaari din itong makatulong sa learning crisis ng Pilipinas dahil mas lalong matutugunan at matutuonan ang mga pangangailangan ng mahigit 50 to 60 students per class. Good job, no notes. Wink, wink. Here are some global/international news. South Africa takes genocide case to Israel. In a shocking turn of events, South Africa took Israel to The Hague, a sort of international court, accusing Israel of committing genocide to the Palestinian people in Gaza. This is interesting considering both countries have had the terrible tragedies and history of genocide. The Holocaust for the Ashkenazi Jews in the Second World War and enduring neo-Nazi anti-Semitic rhetoric, along with South Africa's most or more recent history of apartheid and segregation. A South African lawyer, Adela Hassim, has said that in the past 13 weeks, although it's still going on, the constant bombardment of civilian areas and even journalism non-profit non-governmental organizations is a clear case of the brutal occupation and genocidal acts with thousands of deaths and population displacement since the first. The Israeli government, particularly Prime Minister Netanyahu and his cronies, has instilled Zionist thought in the massacre of civilians in Gaza, not to mention the decades of inhospitable and frankly disquieting situations in the Gaza region pre-October 7 Hamas attacks. When the entire population of Gaza has no access to clean drinking water, electricity, and basic human liberties, along with racial profiling, population displacement, and constant threat, pushing a few of them to religious extremism even further than what they already are. First it was just nationalism, now it's religious extremism. The fact of the matter is that Israel has the burden of upholding human rights, considering they're a legitimate country, unlike Palestine, which was they have the burden to uphold human rights. And the fact that they are doing the exact opposite by imprisoning millions of people in a closed strip with no access to clean drinking water, no networks, and anything for that matter, that's kind of genocidal. Just because they're increasing in population doesn't mean that they are not experiencing genocide in any way. Maybe concentration camp would be a better way to describe it, but since the bombardment of hospitals, and again, as I said, non-profit non-governmental organizations, along with communes and cities in general, well, you see the bombardment as largely and most crucially ethnic cleansing at its very form. At yan ang pagtatapos ng News I Deem Worthy Recap Weekly Edition for roughly the 4th week of January 2024. Mag-suggest some more topics and or corrections to the balitas if you feel I misrepresented them in any way. Salamat sa mga panonood mga kabayang. For me, like, subscribe, and follow my links in socials and for Joseph that would be linked down below. Sa susunod muli, paalam.